Howdy y'all, welcome to Nerd Studio. Hey, we're out at the range today with something a little different. This is a Smith & Wesson Model 19. My wife's cousin turned up with this gun. He, I think, bought an old house, and in the process bought part of the gun collection that was stored in the house, which is part of what he does for business, and he wasn't sure what to make of this gun, so he let me borrow it for a bit so I could go check it out, find out the history of it, get Glenn at Rock City Guns to go through it and check its function and make a video. So that's what we're going to do. First, I wanted to take some time to talk about the history of the Smith & Wesson Model 19. I didn't really know much about the guns personally. I shoot a few revolvers, but not really into the history of them. And it was a lot of fun looking this up, so I thought I'd share a couple of things that I found out. The Model 19 was actually developed back in the 50s. Smith & Wesson approached a man named, Bill Jordan. Bill was a retired chief inspector for the Border Patrol and kind of a famous gunfighter. And, he was a firearms writer, wrote about firearms at the time. And they went to him and said, hey, what if you were to design a gun for law enforcement, what would you build? So first I want to talk a little bit about Bill Jordan, because he was kind of an interesting character. As I read more about him, I thought I'd share a story. There's an old sheriff out there named Jim Wilson. I think Jim's still around. Jim was a contemporary with Bill. Jim was a 30-year Texas lawman, the real deal. Retired sheriff of Crockett County. He was a former sheriff of Crockett County. I'm not sure if he retired from there or not. And interestingly enough, he was a cowboy singer. He sang some country and western cowboy songs. I tried to look him up, trying to see if Google had him. I couldn't find him. Otherwise, I'd have played him for you. Anyway, they're sitting around talking back in the 70s. And in the 70s, there was a gun scare really similar to what we're experiencing today. People were burying guns and ammo in their backyards and stuff. And I kind of remember this. I mean, I was just a kid. I was born in the 60s, but gun sales, went up through the roof and prices went crazy. And they're sitting around just sort of chatting. I guess they were really debating the benefits of dark booze versus light booze. They were martini and gin drinkers, so I guess you know where they came out on that. And there was another guy there, and he was all into the hype, and he said. He was talking about all the guns and stuff he's got buried in his backyard, and he turns around and looks at Bill Jordan. He says, "Mr. Jordan, what battle rifle would you stash away?" And apparently, Bill looked at him and took another sip of his vodka tonic and said, "I'd put away a Smith & Wesson Model 19 and a box of cartridges." So this other guy said, "Models for what? Pistol and a box of cartridges?" He says, "Mr. Jordan," because he knew Bill was kind of hard of hearing at this time. He said, "I meant, what kind of AR would you want to have hidden away?" Bill smiled and he finished his vodka tonic and he said, "Sonny, I heard you the first time, and my answer is a Smith & Wesson Model 19 and a box of cartridges. If serious trouble starts and you can shoot at all, you can get whatever kind of little machine gun you'd want to carry. You can even get a little Jeep and drive, and maybe even a nice looking uniform to wear, if you can shoot." That was a funny story. I think there are times we look at what goes on in our society and look at the current, sort of gun mania thing that's going on today and think, well, that's a new idea. What comes around goes around, I guess. So what did Bill Jordan say to Smith & Wesson? He said, well, if I were going to build the dream gun, the law enforcement or the peace officer's dream gun, he said, I'd build a heavy-barreled 4-inch K-frame 357 Magnum with a shrouded barrel and adjustable sights. So Smith & Wesson went off, and after a year of experimenting, they came back with a gun after they had to improve some of the steel strength that they were working with, and did some work on a special heat treating process, and they presented Bill with one of these. They called it the 357 Combat Magnum, and then later dubbed it the Model 19. They gave him the first Model 19 ever made on November 15, 1955. This gun's a Model 19-4. It was made probably around 1977 or so. When I got the gun from my wife's cousin, it was in good shape. The trigger feels good. The grips are actually really nice. It's obviously been used. It was in a holster. Probably a police carry gun is my guess. No one really knows the exact history of it. It had some rough spots. There was some rust and things on it, so I took it down to Glenn to get just to make sure it was safe to shoot and that kind of thing, and asked him what we ought to do with it. He went ahead and started correcting some of the bluing spots on the gun. There was quite a bit of rust here, and there were holster wear marks here along the barrel, and he's already gone through and corrected those. The cylinder had some movement in it, and so he went in and put a shim in to bring the cylinder back to specs. And his next advice was to take it out and shoot it. He said, put some rounds through it, then give it a good cleaning, bring it back in, and he would finish going through it. Well, if we're going to shoot it, I figured let's take the opportunity to make a video. So let's shoot a few rounds. We'll talk a little bit more about the gun. Yeehaw! Boy, this thing, it'll pound you. 357's got some punch. We're just shooting we shot some free munitions, and then the 357s were some hand loads from Bob. And they got to get up and go. The grip of the revolver is different for me. I'm very much used to a semi-automatic pistol, and the revolver grip's very different. That would take some getting used to. I don't know that this would be the right gun for me, but this was sure a pleasure to shoot. The trigger, both in double action and single action, are great representations of that style of trigger, in my opinion. Not that I've shot a ton of them, but I've shot enough to know, wow, you could sneeze and this thing go off in single action. So a couple more things about the features of this gun. It has adjustable sights. The cylinders are recessed, which makes reloads really nice. They sort of allow the bullet to just jump right in there. If you watch any, guys like Jerry Mitchellek or anybody that really does competition shooting with a revolver, you'll know that their cylinders are special. They do some work on them. The trigger on this also has what's a target trigger. I don't know if we can get this on camera or not, but it has ridges on here, so your finger really does feel the trigger quite well. They didn't spare any expense on this gun. This was really done to really give the peace officer the best piece of iron that they could stick in his hands. So it shows. It shows even, what are we, almost 30 years later. Well, this is off to Glenn at Rock City Guns. He's going to go through it again after I give it a good cleaning. We'll run it through the ultrasonic cleaner, break all the grit and the grime up there. Take it down to him and let him go through it part by part and make sure there's just nothing that has excessive wear, and get it ready for prime time. Then it's back off to the man they call Little David, and he's no little man. Anyway, thanks David for letting me borrow it. It was a blast to shoot. I might put a few more rounds through it when it comes back from Glenn. What a piece of history. All right, folks, always remember anyone could shoot the Smith & Wesson Model 19. Well, if you're going to stick 357 through it, hang on and be careful. Anyone can shoot it and have fun. We'll see you next time.
Yeehaw!